Hey guys, VFX Bro here, and today we've got a very exciting tutorial in store for you. If you didn't get a chance to check out Final Cut King's latest video, the guy with a funny talent, aka dubstep eyebrows, then go ahead and check that out because the tutorial will be on how we did the first part of that effect, where we see his eyebrows doing this realistic sort of dance, very similar to that of the girl with the funny talent. So what we're going to do here is grab this back plate here, and I'm just going to make this into a new composition and see what we've got here. We've got Zach looking around, and we've got some trackers on his head here that we're going to use for tracking and adding on this effect. So we have here Zach just looking around, and here we're just going to double click on his left eyebrow, and we're only going to look at his left eyebrow for this tutorial because it's pretty much the exact same for the right eyebrow. But if we double click, we can see what we did. We put some tracking markers on his face and had him adjusting his eyebrow with his fingers, being careful not to get any shadows over his face. And we used several trackers just because we weren't sure which one would work best, so we had the option of using different ones because, as you can see, as he moves his hands, different parts of his head are affected that might make for not the ideal track. So let's go back into our composition here, and we have this, and we're going to track this shot not using After Effects but actually using Mocha. Mocha is a free program that comes for those of you who have After Effects CS4, I believe, and above, and we're going to open it up here and bring in this shot. Now what Mocha is a planar tracker, so it allows us to track full textures and gives us very accurate results in situations where After Effects might not do the best job. So what we're going to do here is go and make a new project, and we're going to import a new clip. And we have here the back plate. We're going to open that and hit OK. Okay, so we're going to use our zoom in tool here to zoom into his left eyebrow, which is the one that we're going to be tracking for this shot. And let's use this tool right here, create X-spline layer tool, to track around his eyebrow. We're going to include these dots because these dots are going to help a lot with our track because they have high points of contrast, which will make for an accurate track. So there we have that. Let's go ahead and track backwards first. There we go. We're going to go back to that first frame here and then track forwards. Okay, so now that that's tracked all the way through, we can take a look. Okay, so that looks like it's tracked very well. We can scrub through and see that it's holding on there nicely. We're going to go ahead and click here and hit Export Tracking Data. And we're going to select After Effects CS3 corner pin and hit Copy to Clipboard. Now if we go into After Effects here, we have this shot. We're going to go to our first frame. We're going to go Layer, New, Null Object. And then we're just going to hit Control V and paste that on there. So now we have this null object which is tracked to our head. And not only is it tracking this point, but it's also tracking the rotation, the shear. So it's a very accurate track. Very cool. Now our next step is to take our left eyebrow. We're going to bring this into a new composition here. And we have this left eyebrow here. And what we need to do is stabilize this footage because we can see that Zach's head is tilting a little bit. So this footage needs to be stabilized, which we can do in After Effects. We're going to click on Window, Workspace, and we're going to go to Motion Tracking. We're going to track our motion. For those of you with CS5 or below, you can hit Stabilize Motion, but because I am using CS 5.5, hit Track Motion, and I'm going to go over here and click on Stabilize. And we're just going to stabilize the position as well as the rotation. And so we're going to scrub through this and look for parts of him that are not moving as a result of his fingers, but are only moving with his face, the actual bone structure of his face. So we've got a nice point right here. We also want to make sure that the points are far apart. They have the same Z axis change as his eyebrows would. So we can track this right onto this, I believe, and we're going to move around here and see that that'll give us a pretty good result right there. So let's go back to this frame right here. We can actually go to our first frame and track this onto that point right there, and leave this onto that point right there. And now we're going to hit track forward. And you can see, although it's very slight, it will make a difference in the long run. And so we have that. And now we're going to just hit apply. So now we can see that the frame is tilting and his eyebrows are completely stabilized, which is perfect. So now we have that. Now our next goal is going to be to mask out just his eyebrows. And we're also going to do that in Mocha. But first we're going to export this shot into Mocha. So now that it's already been stabilized and we can see we have black edges, that's not a problem. We're going to go Layer, Composition, Add to Render Queue, and we're going to export this. I like to use ProRes 422 settings. We can quickly see that we went here, Format QuickTime, Format Options, Apple Res Pro, Res 422, and then we're going to hit OK. And we're going to choose our output destination, which is left eyebrow. We're going to call it left eyebrow stabilized, and hit render. Back here in Mocha, we're going to create another new project. We don't need to save this because we've already exported all we need. We're going to hit choose, and then we're going to bring in our left eyebrow stabilized. Hit OK and hit OK. Only 15 frames, but this will still help us. And what we can do here is actually track the eyebrow on its own. So we're going to click on this, zoom in. We're going to use this to make a nice mask. Let's click on our mask here and just drag this around the eyebrow section. And close that off and just track forward. Make sure that our shear here is turned on. And we can see that's tracking so nicely. Now that we have that tracked, we're going to do is hit export shape data, Mocha shape data for After Effects, copy to clipboard. We're going to go back into After Effects here. Open our left eyebrow, layer, new, solid. Hit OK, and then we're going to hit Control V and paste that data on here. So now you can see that we have this nice mask that's being tracked onto our eyebrow. So let's go into our workspace. I'm going to go to Effects. We're going to type in Fast Blur. We're going to go ahead and double click on Fast Blur. It's going to add it automatically here to our Effects tab. And let's go ahead and set this track matte to Alpha Matte Blue Solid 1. And we can even rename this Eyebrow Matte. Now we have that matte added in here. And we're just going to bring up our Fast Blur so that we kind of blur out our mask so that it kind of blends in. Let's try it there. And now if we scrub through, we can see that our eyebrow is tracked. Beautiful. Now let's go ahead and go back to our normal workspace, standard. And we're going to take this forehead TIFF. And if we double click, we can see it's just a clean shot of Zach here, looking so handsome. And we are going to use this plate of his forehead. It's just a single frame, his forehead completely cleaned, no hands in the way, no trackers. A little red from possibly moving it with his hands, but that's fine. We're going to take this forehead TIFF and drag it on top. Now if we go into our composition, we have this forehead here, and we're going to drag it underneath our eyebrow. So we can see we've got that right there. And we're going to drag this and move it so that it matches up with the initial position of eyebrow, which is right there. Now what we can do, we're going to go here and type in Mesh Warp. We're going to take this, drag it onto our forehead TIFF, and we're going to bring this up. So we're going to bring our rows maybe up to like 27, and our columns right around the same. Right about there looks good. And we're going to use this to distort his forehead so that we can blend it in. So we're going to go to our first frame here, because we know that at our first frame, everything is about as stale or as neutral as possible. And we're talking about his eyebrows. So if we turn this off and on, very close, that looks great. So we have that there. And we're going to set a keyframe for the distortion mesh here. Now, if we turn this off, if we leave this on, let's go ahead and scrub through here. And we're looking at the eyebrows and seeing where they turn. So we can see that we're looking for extreme points of motion. And we can see right here, it's kind of an extreme point in motion because it's moving up into this position. And then it's kind of staying there until it moves in a different direction. So what we can do here, we can see that his eyebrow goes up to right about there. We're going to unclick that. And we're going to take this and we're going to warp it. And we're going to bring it up like that. And then we're going to take this forehead, bring it up a little bit as well. And we're going to bring this up just a tad right there. So his eye looks whacked out, but that's fine, not a big deal. But if we scroll through this, we can see that it's bringing it up. And now let's compare that to our original shot. And we can see that the left side is actually not going down quite as much. We just want our top. So let's go back, turn this off, and click on our forehead, click on our mesh warp, and we're going to even bring this up just a tad. And maybe bring this just a little bit down and in. Let's take a look at that. That's close to what we want. If we look up here around this area, we can see that it's distorting the forehead, which is all we really care about is the forehead, because we're trying to make a matte here just for the forehead so that we can have his eyebrow affect his forehead, because we can't use the previous matte, because if we looked at that, then we would see that we've got these fingers in the way. So that's why we're doing this. Just wanted to clarify. So that looks pretty good. We want to make it look as though the eyebrow is affecting the forehead. And we could probably even move this up a little bit right here. Bring up the mesh warp. Just drag that on up just a tad. There we go. Beautiful. And then here, if we click on U, we can look at our keyframes. That's our last keyframe. And then here we can see the far left part of his eyebrow begins to move up until right about this keyframe. So we're going to click on that and bring up the left part of his head. Let's see how that looks. Nice. And then this front part starts to go down up until they both drop. So we go to this keyframe right here, click on mesh warp, and bring down the front. Maybe you just move this over just a tad bit. And then finally, we're returning to our neutral position. So we can just click on this first position here, hit Control C, and Control V and paste it there. So there we have it. And if we scroll through this, we can see that our forehead is warping along with the eyebrow. Wonderful. Great. Okay, now what we can do is mask this out here. So we can see this is stabilized wonderfully. And we're going to make a mask for just the background, which is his forehead. And we're going to make this mask right about here. There we go. And now you can see what we got here. This guy being followed. And we're going to take our mask here and feather it out just a tad. Let's try 12. Beautiful. That looks wonderful. So we've got that, and this is our left eyebrow. Now we can go back to our back plate here. We've already tracked in his head, and we can take this back plate, and we can take our left eyebrow and just drag that right on top. Now we can do is go to our first frame, and what we're going to actually do here is hit Command Shift C. We're going to pre-compose this. So what we do here is move all of our attributes into the new composition. And so now we have this guy. And we can see that it ends here. So what we're going to do here is hit an expression, make an expression so that this loops. And we can see this over and over again. So we're going to click on time, enable time remapping. And we're going to go to the frame right before this ends, which is right here. Set a keyframe, and we're going to delete this keyframe. Now we're going to alt click on this, and we're going to go loop out. We're going to set it to ping pong so that it loops back and forth between those frames. We hit return, and now if we scroll through, we can see that it's looping back and forth, just bouncing around. Now what we can do is click on this guy, and we're going to move it around. This is our most neutral position, and so we can match it up here, right about there. Flawless. And now we can just parent this to our null object and take a look. So the top looks pretty good, but we can see underneath the bottom we still have some of his previous eyebrow showing through. So there's two ways we can go about that. One, we could paint out the bottom using our clone stamp, or we could try going into our left eyebrow here and extending the mask of the forehead down even further. We could bring it down just below the eyeball. And take a look at that. And that seems to get rid of our problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at it from back here. And there we have his eyebrow dancing. Now, not only do we have the benefit of having this eyebrow being animated, but if we look at the skin, it looks as though his skin is moving along with it too. So that's what really helps to sell it, is the mesh warp. So keep that in mind when making your animation. And the rest of this is just a matter of animating it back and forth to the beat. So we can use this time remap, and we're actually going to pre-compose this again. We're going to move all these into the new app, and we're going to actually reparent this to our null object, and it's still sticking on there. And now we can do another time remap, and we know that it's just scrolling through the same animation back and forth, so we can use this. So let's say we wanted to bring it up to this point right here and have it stop there. So we would set a keyframe, and then we would move forward, copy that free keyframe and hit, and then paste it. And so we can see here now that it's frozen in that position. And then it continues. So we're going to just use that to animate his eyebrow and go through it frame by frame that way. So this has been a tutorial on the guy with a funny talent video from Final Cut King. This is the VFX Bro. Take care.
way. I feel I'm turning back